Anything you want to say, babes?
I just want to say thank you very much to everyone that's out there fighting for me. Seeing this come together and the support has been amazing. I've got a table full of rock stars here that are all working tirelessly around the clock fighting for this cause with me. And I just want all you guys out there across the world to know that I'm going to justify your effort and I'm going to come back stronger and bigger and badder. And once I get back on my feet, we're going to justify all this. Make sure that all you guys' efforts don't go unnoticed. We're going to come together and have a huge, huge party.
Oh, this chicken now. Oh yeah, I know my dogs are watching. And if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you're my target, because my name is Smooth and I'm here to help you get busy, live in. What's that mean? For me, that's one epic adventure every single month for the next for 55 months in a row. But for you, that means tuning in once a month, third Thursday, kicking some knowledge with us so you can learn from me and our guests what we feel are the things you need to know when it comes to getting busy living, living a purposeful, deliberate, intentional life. I'm pausing because if you haven't noticed yet, well, I didn't bring D-Rex on because there's no D-Rex this week, guys, for this month. D-Rex is honoring her commitment to her social relationships, and she's on her way back to Pennsylvania to spend a very important birthday with her sister. So, D-Rex, you're missed. For those of you that can't tell, D-Rex is she does a lot of the aside the scenes work, such as making sure the sound and everything is lined up. But nevertheless, I have an exciting topic for you guys. We got a 10-part series we're doing. This is part two. The series is things in life that you should never take for granted on your mission to get busy living. And this week, we're talking about our social relationship. So there I was, broken and broke on my deathbed, and not a single person that I'd ever met within 1,000 miles of me. And I couldn't move. And where would I have been without my social relationships? Believe me, there's never been a day since then. If there ever was a day prior to that, there's never been a day since then that I take social relationships for granted. So we've got excellent guest today to help speak on that because this man showed up and was the model of what the best case scenario is out of any social relationship is to find a true friend. So you can imagine being broke and broken and alone. And because of my social relationships, the nurses handed me my phone. I was able to contact my friend who was staying with me at my house, our house, she's a business partner back in Bali. You guys have all heard about Micah. Thank the Lord in heaven above that Micah showed up. Number one, social relationship showing up in that scene. To her, she went through my phone and contacted all the people that were within my WhatsApp and Facebook message. She went on Facebook, told the world about the fact that I had been injured without insurance, biggest blunder in my life, and that I was going to die there if people didn't chip in to help. And so there I was without Micah. I would have died there. In fact, she resuscitated 3 times. I remember one, from what I understand, 3 times where I probably would have turned blue and sunk in all the way that day. And thank heavens that Micah showed up. And then with the word getting out, um, thankfully, because man, for those of you that were tuned in back then, you all know what I'm talking about when I say that, man, the dude I'm about to bring on showed us all what it means to have a true friend and what a true friend will be to you or when you need them most. So please help me welcome to the stage without further ado, my man, the one and only Scooty Wells, the wolf. What's up, dog?
Sup, dog?
My
Always good to
man,
be
I
here.
Swells. There's no D-Rex in the house. We are missing her. Let me ask you this: can you hear feedback, or is it just me?
Yeah, your sound is not good. It was good in the test before, but every couple words it sounds like you're in a glass jar. So
I'm hearing massive feedback. So let me first of all take a second to say hello to the people in the comments. What up, Shoy Boy and Kiro? Can you guys hear that feedback as well? If you're in the comments, let us know. Sound needs fixed, he says. So I'm baffled as to what could be causing it, but
it's weird. It was just good.
right, exactly. So as soon as we went live, so I got to tell you that StreamYard, the StreamYard is spectacular. How's that?
Well, time will tell.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Talk some more.
I'm still getting some feedback here. How's it sound now? Guys, Melissa, what's up, girl? Can you hear me? Is there any more
That that,
feedback?
that sounds a lot better
A lot
for
better.
mine. Yeah,
Way better.
way better.
Excellent. Where
There we
was
go.
I? Scooty
All
Wells.
right, all
Where
right.
I was. Where I was,
Hey, let's do
bro.
that
I'm
again.
telling you.
Let's do that again. Sup, dog.
Dog. I have no idea where that came from, but we've been doing that shit for a decade now.
75 episodes. What?
I know, right?
Oh, the sup,
So
dog. Yeah.
for real, bro. Let me just take a moment. Just first of all, thank you for those of you that are in the comment section. Much love to all of you for showing up. Once a month, we're doing it now. So third Thursday of each month, please keep on coming back. But let me get back to where I was, man. Like I said when I first started, that there's not been a day in my life since then that I've ever taken my social relationships for granted. And Squells, there's not a day that I don't appreciate you, bro. So I can vaguely remember a couple things during the time when I was in that medically induced coma, and two of them that stand out to me, and none of them are insignificant. But the two that are relevant to this social relationships agenda here is when you first arrived, dude, I'm gonna get all foggy eyed, and you came in, and you gave me dap, and you're like, bro, we're gonna get you out of this, man. Just keep fighting. and and then the other thing I remember is you coming in at New Year's. I don't recall talking. I just recall hearing you say, "You made it." But man,
Yeah. I rushed back. I was meeting up with um, someone that reached out to us or to me and Jerry and wanted to meet and figure out the inside scoop on the story and just and so on New Year's Eve I had like 15 minutes left and I was like, hey, I'm sorry to cut this short. I got to run back to the hospital. So I came back and made it into your room in the final like 30 seconds before midnight and came by and I was like, bro, Happy New Year, whispered in your ear, and that's when you were like, you were out of it. That was some of the darkest times for you. Um, but yeah, it's
so
powerful.
so let's talk about that, man. Social relationships. First of all, when we were talking, why don't you share with our audience, what your feelings about social relationships, what they are, and why they're valuable. You told me you're telling me about the different types of
Yeah, yeah.
relationships.
So it's when you asked me to do this podcast, I was kind of unsure what I've never used the term social relationship before. It's the term friend, colleague, uh, acquaintance, family member, old friend from your childhood. Those are all social relationships. When I started thinking about it, I went, okay, well, they're all different social relationships. You confide with family members and close friends. You don't confide with your acquaintances and your colleagues so much whenever you're going through some stuff. And it's friendship is very powerful, and friendship is the result of social relationships. From what I was thinking, everybody can kind of define it in their own way. But you know, whenever you have a social relationship with someone that you really connect with, and you turn that into getting to know each other a little better, and then turn that into a bona fide friendship that lasts distance, lasts time away, lasts time away from talking completely. I know some of my friends in Sweden, you and I have been through this, where we haven't talked on the phone for 6 months at some points, which is totally unacceptable.
That's crazy to
But
believe.
and we always try to man, let's not do that again. And then 3 months will go by, and we're like, damn, dude, how have I not talked to him? But I have other very, very close friends from my time in the Marine Corps, and we're lifelong best friends. And there'll be times where I'll go 2, 3 years without talking to them, but I'll call these guys, and it'll pick up, and it'll be like I seen them yesterday, you know. And
I got one.
it's like we don't miss nothing,
I
you
got
know.
one for you.
Posey.
What's up, Pose? Good to see you, brother. Speaking of that, so you know what? You're right. There friendship, social relationships is a different way of describing it. But I got something here that I wanted to share. So for those of you that don't know who this guy is, Albert Schweitzer, he was he's a famous French philosopher and theologian and musician. And Albert Schweitzer actually won the Nobel Peace Prize somewhere like in the mid 50s or something, for his work in the fields of humanitarianism. So I love this quote. In everyone's life, at some time, our inner fire goes out. It then bursts into flame by an encountering with another human being. We should all be thankful for those people who rekindle the inner spirit. And that hits me so hard in the heart because I have had times. In fact, in some ways, I'm going through one of those times now where that fire, isn't burning as hot and bright as you're used to, And isn't it crazy how it's always another human being that brings you out of that? It's like for all the money and materials in the world you can ever have, you know, true happiness always comes from the people that we socialize with, and we are communal creatures. Humans need each other, you know, and so when it comes to all of the different types of relationships that you described, they're not all friends, but that's the hope is that with each of the social relationships, the best case scenario for any social relationship that you have is that you foster a friendship, and like I said to you the other day, and you got a chuckle out of this, but I said that every time you have a social relationship, it's like having another oyster, and you can just eat, you can get fed off an oyster, and there's even a little bit of an aphrodisiac there, so you might even have a little bit of a spiritual experience. But every once in a while, you get a pearl out of that oyster, and that's when a true friendship is formed. So take us back, Swells. Take us back to when you got word that of what happened. What
Yeah.
went through your mind and what was your actions?
So when you had your accident in December of 2017, I was a scuba dive instructor in Hawaii, and I was working a charter that day. Came back from the charter, got to the shop, and usually come back to the shop. Your all your divers get out of the van. They go to their cars, say your goodbyes. You come in and you start cleaning gear for the next 30, 45 minutes. And usually, you check your phone, see what you missed for the last 4 hours. And as soon as I opened my phone, the first thing I saw was a picture of you laying in a hospital bed with a halo and a neck brace that was a post that was made by Micah. on your Facebook page, saying that you had an accident, fell, and you broke your neck, and they don't know your status, but you're in dire need of some funds. And I just was floored immediately. I mean, that was a, you know, that I knew immediately that that was going to change. Well, definitely change the course of your life. Um, and it highly affected the course of my life, at least for the next few months. Um, I told the dive partner I was with, I got to go handle something. Told him what happened. So he was good with cleaning the gear. I went home, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she was at the apartment, and I broke down to her and just got home and just started sobbing. And I was like, he he needs he needs help, and he's all the way across the world. How is anything going to happen with him with no insurance all the way across the world in a Balinese hospital? And I looked at her with tears in my eyes, and I was like, I'm going. I don't know how. And I had no money. We were living paycheck to paycheck at best. I was delivering food on the side just to make bills, and we were going in debt. So it's not like I could take my savings out or cash out a 401k or something like that and go. I just was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it just needs to get done. And so when I started communicating with Micah and on the social media page that we were all creating, between everybody over in Bali, Ruby, me, a couple others that were kind of joining together to get things rolling, get the momentum moving on what our plan was. This couldn't be handled by one person or two people. This had to be a group effort, and there had to be a lot of wheels turning from different angles, and people reaching out to media outlets, people reaching out to people to donate, people doing social media posts, and within then I think it was 2 days. I dropped my wife off at the airport. We had tickets to Alaska for her to come home for Christmas and meet my family, and I dropped her off at the airport alone. And she wanted to go with my family alone. That was amazing,
Yeah, mad
And
props.
I
Mad props
remember
to her.
saying, "Yeah, man, mad props, Louise." And said bye to her, and then it was okay. How am I going to get over there? And through social relationships, someone that had companion airfare, or not companion, but discounts. I think it was a $99 seat through Delta, on standby, employee discount seat, whatever. And so they contacted me. I never talked to this dude before, but whoever, I don't even remember his name, man. But props to that dude, because I missed my first flight. There was no room. Second flight, I got the last seat, and that got me to Japan. So I'm in Japan. Get into a hotel room. People are calling me from stateside. I'm talking to people in Bali. Buy my ticket from Japan to Bali, which was the worst flight of my life. That's a whole nother story. That was a long 9-hour flight. Like, no screens in front of you, no nothing. I had a book. It was the one time in my life that I read a book from front to back in one setting. And then I had like 3 hours left in the flight after I finished the book. Like, kids are running up and down the aisles, like kicking my chairs. It's a different culture over there, Like in America, you'd be like, dude, take care of your kids over there. Yeah, it's a different culture, So I finally get into Bali, and I've been up for 24, maybe 30 some hours. Elmo picks me up, and go back to your house, and had to wait for visiting hours, and then came in and saw you. And that feeling of walking into the hospital room, and seeing it in a photo, picturing it in your mind for the last 36 hours, it doesn't prepare you for what you're confronted with whenever you come in and see your brother in a hospital bed where there's cockroaches running around. The doctors are in flip flops. No doctor around you. but you
Flip
had,
flops.
but you had a group of, there had to have been 5 or 6 people there that you had built social relationships with in your, what, 1 year, 6 months in Bali? You're there, what, a year?
Yeah.
And, you know, they were there. They weren't just there to like look and give you flowers and well wishes. They were there to do anything that they could to improve your circumstance. And so with them and me and some people stateside, you know, we hatched a plan together. We said, well, we got to fundraise. So we started fundraising, and the beginning of a fundraiser, whenever you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars just to get you alive, it's daunting. You're like, how? Like, okay, maybe $1,000, $2,000, okay. We ended up raising, what was it? We had to get you like, I think it was $70,000 raised, because we had to pay for your surgery and your flight before we were accepted into Malaysia. And you know, all these people united, and you know, you were on Sports Illustrated, you're on numerous media outlets, you know, um, all over the internet. And the money, we just kept checking. The money kept coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in. We're like, wow, we hit 20,000. We're like, holy cow, we we might actually be able to do something here. And finally, we got the enough needed. And on Christmas Day, you and I took a flight, private jet, balling out. Now, my first private jet would be a little different than that. I'm sure you too. And flew up to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and got you into emergency surgery. Um, you know, and honestly, man, you know, like I think that the darkest times, like I was saying before, were in Malaysia after your surgery, whenever you were had the trach in, and or you were intubated, and there was a time of 3 or 4 days um, where you were living through a hell. And I hope you don't remember any of this, and I don't think you do. And I kept whispering in your ear, this is all a memory. This is all in the past. You're going to wake up and this part's going to be over. This is going to be over. Just know that this is just a passing time. And, you know, whenever I remember the time where they wheeled you into surgery, and we had been, you know, staying up, stressed out. We didn't have time to really, or I didn't have time. I can't speak for anybody else. I didn't have time to really let it soak in of what was happening. And then once you went off into surgery for the next 6 hours, I remember sitting down in the hospital, back against the wall, and just cried, you know. Um, and it was kind of like, wow, he he he's getting surgery. Like that is what he needed to save his life. And you were getting rolled into that, you know. So that, you know, little cliff note story, because I mean that story could take up 5 straight podcasts, and hopefully a future movie.
A future movie. Speaking of one of the devils, Louise is saying, so cool. Oh, and she said, look at that. One of the biggest newspapers in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The truth is that my first private jet ride and Swedish newspaper headlines didn't materialize in my life the way that I imagined them originally. That's the truth. But you know, so what I want to highlight with this part 2 of a 10-part series of things you should never take for granted if you want to complete the mission of getting busy living is, you know, imagine what my circumstances would have been like had my social relationships not been so strong. You know, when the nurse woke me up and I couldn't move, I could barely move my arms, and I couldn't. All I could do is turn my, move my head a little bit. But she told me not to move. She's like, as soon as they realized that I had no sensation, that's what the first clue was, that I had a broken neck. And so she told me not to move. And she told me that I had been brought into the hospital by 5 villagers, local villagers, that heard the pavilion cave in and dug me out of the rubble. And I was thinking to myself, man, I, I was nowhere near, Bali Vibes was in Canggu, and I was on the south side of Bali. I had been, I'd gone and spent the weekend with some people that were guests at the guest house the previous week, and then they went on their next leg of their vacation. And they invited me to join them for the weekend, so I went with them. They left and went on their travels, and I spent the day down there just vibing, and so where I was completely alone at that in that part of the island. I was so lucky that those guys did that, but I felt so. You know, have you ever seen those movies where they like show a person like very, very far underwater, and they like try to paint the vibe of being like hopeless and so far from everything? And that's what it felt like. I felt like I was really, really, really far underwater. And when I imagine a lack of social relationships in life, that's the type of vibe that I feel. And there's so many reasons that social relationships are healthy, and so many reasons that they're they are technically necessary. You can say that I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. Like I can get my own job, or I can pay my own bills, or you know, there's so many things that we think that we can do on our own. And for those of us that are independent, I was one of the most independent people I've ever known. I basically built my life from scratch on my own. And but when I say I built it on my own, I mean that I was the one making my own decisions, and I was the one, putting in the work. But there's nothing that I have in my life that I did by myself. I didn't pull the weeds. I didn't capture the sheep and make the linens and protect myself and feed myself. I might have bought that stuff, but even when it comes to that, like we don't really do anything on our own these days. So we do need other people, but I feel like there's especially with social media making people feel more empowered and connected than they actually are, as far as like true friendships. Now, don't get me wrong, I know social media saved my life, really, because you wouldn't have known about my injury if not for seeing on Facebook, right? So
Right.
I'm not saying that social media is an asset, a net asset, but I feel like there's a lot of people that have far more confidence than is warranted about how much they can do on their own, and that they don't need people. And you know, I was talking to a mutual friend of yours and mine recently about somebody that she cared dearly about. And I was asking about, this person's in some hot water, and we were talking about, trying to empathize for what he's going through. And one of the things that I immediately turned to was, what is his support system like? What is his who can he rely on? And not only rely on, but who makes impressions on him? Because it's so easy in this hyper competitive capitalist environment of the United States and beyond, for us to just get hyper focused on our goals and on our grind and on our dollars, and that we don't foster and we don't nurture our social relationships. And that's what I'm hoping, that by tuning into the show, whether it's live today. And by the way, hey sister, thanks for showing up. My sis just joined us. um, I hope that your takeaway from this is to not take these social relationships for granted. You never know when you think you're wealthy and you're healthy and you're smart, and you never know when a monkey's going to snatch your hat.
Yeah, and I don't think it needs to be necessarily, a life and death situation of going, well, I need to nurture these social relationships to be able to get myself out of a pickle whenever I get stuck. But it can be the small stuff, man. Like everybody gets sad, everybody gets lonely sometimes. Everybody needs a friend to talk to, and there are people out there that haven't taken social relationships to heart and haven't nurtured them. So whenever it's like that, they don't have people to call to someone that's gonna pick up the phone and see the caller ID and just be like, I'll talk to him later. In times when you really need that. So yeah, it's definitely important to nurture those relationships. And then it's also, on the other hand, if you're nurturing those relationships, what about your friend that would be there for you if you needed, but now you can be there for them? And you know, it's 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 a good feeling to be there for a friend. It's
So,
there's I've been in discussions about um, altruism, and where you do things just for the good of doing them. And there was a
very good.
discussion that altruism isn't a true thing, because no matter what, you are getting something out of it. And this is in a college class, and I was like, what? No way. And by the end of the discussion, I was like, you know what? There might be a point being made there, because to do things for other people, there's also that satisfaction that comes with it, which isn't a bad thing. It's just the fact of life and the fact of being human. You know.
Hell yeah. You know, I'm going to take that opportunity, since you're talking about doing things for other people, just to remind everybody that um, this podcast is serving multi purposes. First and foremost, because the most important thing is that I am alive today, and I owe it to you, all of you guys that are that are watching live. Every one of you are my homies, and that I can tell, except for this guy that wants to call me Dr. Seuss.
Sure, boy. You're supposed to be over at the house having a watch party.
What's up, Ron? Ron's up in the house also. And then, you got Posey chiming in with some knowledge here. True friendship isn't about only being there when it's convenient. It's about being there when it's not.
Yep.
Well
Yep.
said.
Yep. Solid.
And so number one, this podcast is, for me, it's a means to keep in touch with. It's impossible for me to know who all chipped in to help me have the second lease on life. So this podcast is a means for me to be able to make myself available and for people to see what their efforts, what the fruits of those labors are. And that's why, I try to share the truth about what's going on in my life. I don't tell you about all the dark sides, and I don't brag about all the great sides, but that's part of what this purpose is. But in addition to doing this podcast, in an effort to try to show my debt of gratitude, I established the Help Swede Walk Again organization. I woke up out of a coma to find out there was a Facebook page and a fundraising campaign called Help Swede Walk Again. So what I did was I turned that into an official nonprofit designated by the IRS to be able to offer some betterment to the community. And so I found that stem cells, to me, I was looking for something that had the potential to make an impact on the world the way that the world had an impact on my life. And I found stem cells to be, revolutionary in every way and truly miraculous. And then I offered the audience an opportunity to volunteer somebody that they felt could benefit from stem cells. And I told them that I would take part in fundraising to try to help this person. And so that's when we came up with, first of all, Lori Mezzacapo introduced us to Schaefer. So I'm in Schaefer here.
March Madness. March Madness. March Madness 2. You can see it when you see me, but you gotta believe me.
So this is a little video that gives you a little bit of the highlights of the kind of heart this kid has. Like, he wants to be like his dad, driving tractors, and he's working and pushing and working and pushing. And this is the type of spirit that we're looking for, and that I feel is worthy of help. So what you can do is we came up with this way of serving multiple purposes with this fundraising effort. Okay, he keeps trying until he gets there. Poops himself out on a regular. He's got so much vibrance, man. He's been the guest on our show in the past. Highly recommend you take a look back at our show history and get a chance to get a note for this guy. So what we did, rather than me just developing a nonprofit and asking for donations, I made it multi-tiered because I wanted to be able to help multiple people. First and foremost, by chipping in $50 or more, reserves your copy of the Life in the Year of Swedism's book. So that book was the idea of sin. Swells, you were there, and Jerry was in the ICU room with me when Sin came up with the idea of putting together a collection of my past posts that people find entertaining as poetry and whatnot, motivational, inspirational, entertaining, comical, whatever. So we put that book together. Hopefully the first person that benefits is the person that receives the book. And so what we've done is we made it so that in order to incentivize people to share and get the word out, we said that after the first 1,000 copies is reserved, then we're going to ship the book. And then that's when the second person benefits, because what we're going to do is we're going to use the revenue generated from those first 1,000 copies, and we're going to send Schaefer to Panama and get him some stem cell treatments. And then, so the people that have the books will benefit, hopefully, from at least, if nothing else, being entertained. I'm not going to swear that the stuff in there is going to change your life, and it's not going to make you any closer to being brilliant, but hopefully, if anything else, you'll be entertained. Number two, we're going to send somebody and +1 on an amazing epic adventure to Alaska. First we're going to get Schaefer to Panama to get what is potentially a life-changing stem cell therapy. And then the last, maybe on a level of what's going to be epic, because don't get me wrong, life-changing stem cell therapies, Schaefer's life can be changed in a way that is unparalleled. But Swells, what's it going to be like to go on an adventurous Alaska adventure with you? Because that's what the winner of the raffle is going to get. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, life-changing. And we did a podcast based a whole hour based around this, and we ran out of time and hit like 40% of the stuff that we wanted to cover. But it's going to be a true Alaskan adventure. It's where I was born and raised. We got an LLC up there called Adventurous Alaska, and we're going to go up there and do a custom tour based around what the winner wants it to be. But at the same time, making sure that there's a good level of adventure to get out and see the true nature and beautiful side of Alaska. Get out and camp, wake up in the morning in the nice fresh air, see eagles and moose, bears, go do some fishing, see some mountains, hike some mountains, pick some berries, just live the best 6 days we can up there, 6 nights, 7 days.
I remember when you were first describing, your willingness to provide this to whoever was the lucky winner. And when you were telling me, you're like, man, anybody can go to Alaska and just go pay some tour to get on a train and go look and see. He's like, I want to take people out there so they can get out into what makes Alaska great. That's where there are no people.
So many people.
Yeah.
So many people wait until retirement age to go visit Alaska. I've worked tourism up there on the train and traveled the train all over Alaska for quite a few years. So many people, retirement age. Oh, it was my dream. This is my 50th state I've been to. Save the best for last. Da, da, da. Well, why didn't you come whenever you were younger? Whenever, and they get cattle herded around. They go in with princess tour groups. They get loaded up on a big bus and get driven all the way up to Denali, and then they all come out and go to tourist shops, and then go on a tour together with everybody from their bus. And it's just it makes me sick to my stomach, because there's so much more to see up there, where there's 700,000 people in the state, and the state's over twice the size of Texas. Like, there's a lot of land to get out there and just be one with nature, and experiences that you can't duplicate if you're around, 100 other people. So that we're definitely not going to be cattle herding people around up there.
There's a little bit of irony to this show, and it happens pretty regularly when D-Rex is when D-Rex is on, she brings a level of vibrance to the show. And when she talks about how bad she wants to go to Alaska, it's amazing.
Oh,
But
yeah?
there's a little bit of overlap here because we're trying to encourage people to not take for granted their social relationships, while in the same show, we're telling people that you're going to take them up there and get them away from people. So there is some irony there.
Well, we're going to build a social relationship with between whoever they bring and us, and social relationship with the animals. What's up?
The exciting part is to think about, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, imagine, say we've already demonstrated or talked about the caliber of a man Scooty Wells is, to drop everything in his life and leave his girlfriend to go home to meet his parents on Christmas, to fly in the opposite direction, to go to Bali, instead of being a part of an extremely joyful and memorable circumstance, to go to an extremely morbid and forgettable circumstance. So that takes some morals and some values that are, truly admirable. Can you imagine putting yourself in the winner's circle where you get to call Scott and say, well, I have my +1. What are our options? And Scott says, what time of the year can you go? Because that's going to determine what types of things you can do, or what types of things do you want to do? And that's how we'll determine what time of the year you should go, because you can't always fish for salmon. You can't always see the Northern Lights. You can't always, do the glacier hiking or ride the bobsleds with the Huskies or all of these other amazing things that you can do. Like, there's only a couple things depending on the weather, But what I want you to imagine is being in that, having that opportunity. And then once you get up there, it's going to be you and your +1 and Scott. And I might try to take Titan and Journey and let Louise go with you if I can talk her into letting go of the kids for that time. But that's another story.
Bro, you said, I want to take a time out, man. You said bobsleds with Huskies. Bobsleds. It's like Jamaican bobsled team. Cool runnings with dogs pulling us.
Come on.
Hey, man, it's good
idea. Check it out. Okay, so I don't want to ignore this. Ron is asking an interesting question, and FGM, what's up, Fairy Godmother, the one and only. So, guys, I just want you to know that, yeah, I had a rough day yesterday at the doctor's office, and I got some news that was extremely disheartening, but it's not life-threatening, so I appreciate your concern. Just want everybody to know that my effort, my goal in posting that was to draw attention to the friendship that happened, because you didn't know it, Scott, that I had just left the doctor's office. When I got in my car and I answered the phone, and I said, I'll call you right back, bro, I was bawling. So I had to get my breath, and I told you I'd call you back. So my point in posting that post yesterday about that was that right when I was in my darkest hour, or a dark hour, maybe not the darkest, but a dark hour, you called me. And that's the value. That's what I was trying to portray with that message, was that don't take for granted your social relationships, because friendship has the power to do that. Like I don't know that I certainly wasn't ready to start my car and drive home. And then you called me, and just the sound of your voice just makes the positivity juice flow, and then, the infinite number of things that we could have talked about to change the subject, just allowed that, all of that stress and despair that I was feeling, to just like roll off my shoulders, And so that was the goal of that post. And I'm saying this because I've gotten a lot of, I've gotten quite a bit of passionate questioning and well wishes from people, and it's extremely heartwarming. I'm very grateful, but there's no cause for concern. I'm not dying. I might not be living it up as soon as I was hoping for, but There's no quitting me. That news I got yesterday, as soon as you got on the phone with me, you were like, bro, just we have to keep on searching for somebody that will do it. Don't take his word as a final answer. Let's just keep on searching. So don't fret. I'll still be around, blowing up your text messages or your inbox once a month. But here's a good question. Ron, I don't know, Scott, I don't know if you ever met Ron, man. That's my dog. I met him at first. I met him out on 30A. I believe he's still out there with his family, but he's also got some things going on out here. His son goes to school out here, and he's come out here. We've kicked it a couple different times. He wants to know where you are in AK.
I mean, I'm in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. that tells you anything. So no, I was born and raised up there, in Palmer, if you're familiar with it, an hour north of Anchorage. And I came back up there while I was traveling and opened up an LLC. And life circumstances happened, and got married, had kids, and it was just a better move, to be outside, in the lower 48, for work as well. And so now I'm working on helicopters, for a company down here, in Milton. And but my passion for Alaska never dwindles. It's always on my mind, always on my heart. So any chance I can to get up there and especially show some people a good time. Jerry Turner, who it's crazy to me that I started telling the story of going over to Bali and then Malaysia with you, and I never mentioned Jerry's name. Forgive me for that, Jerry. But he was so instrumental. That social relationship that you had built, you at the time before
Shout
the
out
accident,
JFT.
you didn't even know that social relationship was where it was, in order for him to come and drop everything he's doing and stop his traveling and come over and spend months with you and me. He paid for our condo when we were out there. Him and I, we could not leave you with the nurses in the hospital, in the ICU, or in the general area of the hospital. So we had to take 12-hour shifts to be in the room. He'd stay 12 hours. I was at the condo. I'd go in, slap hands with him. He'd go back to the condo. I'd stay at the hospital. And that was instrumental in keeping you alive, because
Dude, I
those nurses and
remember.
those doctors over there were not adamant about
Right.
doing anything.
I remember the fear that would set in whenever both of you guys would not be in the room, which might have happened. It was never for more than 5 minutes, but it didn't happen very often, even if you guys stepped outside because you wanted to talk about things you didn't want me to hear. But the pneumonia that I had, and my collapsed lung and that suction thing they had to always do, if it wasn't for Jerry there, I mean, it was physically impossible for you to be there always. And so Jerry came, and between the two of you guys, man, you guys are like the legs on my ladder for real.
Yeah, yeah. And then and at the same time, I mean, for us to stay there for a few months, we couldn't live at the hospital. We had to get a condo. It was too expensive to stay at a hotel for that long.
Yeah,
So he ended up paying for the condo, and I stayed there 3 months, I think, and he was there just a little bit beyond after I had to leave. And
yeah,
it was, and we've talked about that since then, of going, man, like, in your wildest dreams, would you believe that JFT from Destin would be someone that came to your aid in all the way across the world, and because at the time, man, you and we knew him from a social acquaintance. We drank together and hung out, but I didn't know him on a personal level. And yeah, I don't think you were on that level with him either. But since then, he's here visiting now. I just got off the phone with him the other day, so he's here for
oh
a
yeah,
few weeks. We're going to catch up. But so back to Alaska. Well, Jerry Turner, he went up to visit me when I was in Alaska, and he fell in love with it. And now he's been going up the last 3 summers. He bought a fourplex up there and is renting those out, and he goes up there every summer, and is done more things in Alaska, I think, than I have. And I've done a lot in Alaska. I gave him a list whenever he first showed up. We went and he bought a Suburban, which I recommended a Suburban for up there, a full size, SUV he can sleep in the back of, and 4-wheel drive to be able to drive wherever he wants. And he did. And man, he did everything I put on his wishful to
How
do
he
list.
rolls, man.
But I thought he might do like 40% of this. He did every single item on there and some. And I was like, dude, that's impressive, man.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna shout out JFT. Much love, my brother. So Swells, I just want to ask you, and I'm gonna ask Swells a question. If anybody that's watching has any questions that they'd like to ask Scott, just put them in the comments, and we'll put them up there. But Scott, so I know that you grew up in a unique area of the world up in Palmer, and where you spend a lot of time, out in nature. And then you joined the Marine Corps. And then by the time I met you, you were a private contractor still working with the Marine Corps. Since I've known you, you've started a kayak fishing business with one of our friends. And then you've gone traveling around Arizona, Australia, and New Zealand, and Asia, and then settled down in New Zealand for a little while, and then back and forth to Florida on several different occasions. And then you were in Hawaii, and then got married, and then went from living in Alaska to Oakland to living in a fifth wheel, living in Florida, living in North Carolina. Now you got a house that you've been in for 3 years in Florida. Bro, your life is like, it's like a movie for sure. But when it comes to social relationships, where do you believe that you learned these moral values from? Obviously your dad, for sure. I mean, he's in me and him text pretty regularly, and he always shares good stuff with me. So I know where his values are, but just talk a little bit about your life's experiences and where you think that comes from.
Well, yeah, I mean, but both my parents really, and I was lucky enough to grow up in a household with two parents that stayed together. They're coming up on their 50th anniversary. And the way the morals that they instilled in me, you know, live true in me to this day. No, my friendships from growing up there, I keep in touch with I think two of my friends from growing up there, and it's once twice a year we stay in touch. Um, got much love for them. It's just they're living their lives, I'm living mine, and uh, it's a detriment to just kind of being not living around each other. Um, Whenever I joined the Marine Corps, it was the first time that I really got extremely solid, um, lifelong friendships. I can't say the first time because I do have a very good friend from Alaska. Um, Shout out to Ryan and Giles. So too. Anyway, I don't want them to hear this and think that anything bad, but from all the quote unquote friendships that I said I had in middle school and high school, growing up there, none of those except maybe two of them have lasted to where I'm still in communication with them. But my 5 years in the Marine Corps, I have 5 friends that I'll have for life. Sometimes we go 2-3 years without talking. Then I call them up, and it's like we saw each other last week, and if like, and I've said this before, if you have circles of friends, so I have my Marine Corps friends, I have my friends from back home, I have my friends from traveling, I have my friends from Florida, I have my friends from North Carolina, I have my friends from the place I've lived. Now I've had friends from the Marine Corps, Josh, Nate, that have come and traveled down to visit me down
Those are my
here.
dudes.
And yeah, man. And that's my point is like when you're in the right circle and you got the right friends, whenever you introduce them to your other circle of friends and then they become friends and then they go and hang out. Like you've gone and visited and stayed with Josh driving across the country,
A couple times.
a couple times, numerous occasions.
Check out Patrick Majeski saying, "What's up?"
Oh, Magic Stick. What's up, Pat? That's my
The
dog.
magic.
Yeah, man. So it's yeah, it's
Can
it's
you
nice to see whenever your friends from other groups get along and become friends with other groups of your friends. That to me solidifies the fact that I've got the right circles around me.
Amen. I've got some of that also overlap in my life where I've had friends that I knew from one angle and brought them together. Like you and Boogie, for example, um, is a good example of friends that are or people that are tight now that hadn't crossed paths prior to that.
Yep.
And Boog, I've got tons of friends that are my friends now that I met through Boog that like I don't even include Boogie in it when I reach out to them. And for guys like us that have that have gone into a lot of different places and are definitely not we're not shy about making friends. That's going to happen, and that's why I think that the message of this show is so important because for those of us and those of you in the audience that don't struggle with strong social relationships, um, hopefully us making a point of drawing attention to this will encourage you to also reiterate this to your friends that may struggle with it a little bit. A lot of times we assume that people that are introverted aren't interested in friendship or don't value it, and that's almost never the case. Just because they don't volunteer to talk as often, and maybe they enjoy listening more. I mean, I enjoy listening. I don't enjoy silence, so I talk when somebody else doesn't. But it's important for those of you out there that are not um, paying attention and fostering your social relationships. I'm hoping that by hearing, the story of what I've been through, where I was literally on my deathbed and not a friend in sight, going from being completely isolated in a foreign country in a hospital that was more like a rundown gas station, making one phone call to one friend, and that one friend came to my bedside, and that one friend then put out the word to everyone that she could on social media, and within a couple days you got this amazing superhero right here showing up and then riding with me on a medical evacuation jet to another place in a whole nother part of the world and sticking it out with me, putting your life on hold for 2 months. I mean, the despair that I was feeling, from the time I called Micah to the time she showed up is a feeling I hope I would not wish upon my worst enemy. And so that's why it's important that you foster your social relationships, that every person you meet is an oyster that might have a pearl inside. So whether it's at the gas station or if it's on the lift at the ski lodge, or if it's you're sitting in line at DMV, man, the person sitting next to you might be a different size and shape and color and creed, but we're all humans. We all have hearts and souls, and we all have something of value to offer. If for nothing else, just might be there to listen one day when you need to vent, or might be there to vent when you just need to shut up and listen. You know. So, with that, Scooty Wells, I'm gonna give you a chance, to just reiterate. I know you had some other thoughts that you felt were important. Um, I don't want to. I
Yeah.
don't want to jump out of here, but I do want to stay committed to letting you guys know that when I invite you here, that I'm only going to have you hanging on for 1 hour, and we're approaching that 1 hour mark. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody that showed up in the comments. Thank you to everyone that's going to listen to this in the future. Scott, you got anything you want to say to our guests and to our
Well,
future audience?
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I just turned 40 this year, and it's different being a teenager, being in your 20s, being in your 30s and 40s, of moving to a new area. If you don't have those social relationships around you, you got to move for work, got to move for other reasons, whatever it may be. But working on those social relationships is very difficult in your 30s and 40s. It can get people down. It creates people into introverts, maybe that weren't introverts before because they had confidence, they knew the people around them, they had friends that they could call. All of a sudden, oh, no one I know lives around here. How do I meet people? A lot of people, that have grown up in the area you moved, they have their friends, they have their group, and maybe they're kind of closed off to adding someone new. I've experienced this. My wife's experienced this. I've had a lot of friends experience this. But what it takes is is more work, and you got to know that. Like if you're expecting to meet friends like it was easy whenever you're 22 in college or just going out in nightlife, it's easy back then. Oh, why is it not so easy these days? What's going on? Well, it just takes more work, and knowing that it takes more work will allow you to not be beat up so much by hitting pitfalls of developing those social relationships. Um, and that's something that me and my wife both we talk about all the time. We have friends here, um, you know, but it, it's different now than whenever we were back in our area of growing up around our friends that we had that were really tight, especially my wife, man. She's from Sweden, and her family and friends are thousands of miles away. It's nice these days because you got social media, and you can hop on messenger video chat. You can even put VR goggles on these days and hang out, you know
Yeah, you can.
and that brings me to another point that I wanted to say before we close was social media. It's a lot of times you can take social relationships for granted because of social media. Now they allow you to see and keep in touch with people so much better than before social media, but it also makes it to where people are more hesitant and they procrastinate more about picking up the phone and or on a video chat and calling the person that you care about, the person that you have a relationship with. Because yeah, you've seen, oh, they've they went out to the strawberry farm with the kids last weekend. Okay, everything's going good in their life. Well, they're only putting up what they want you to see, and if they're close friends, pick up the phone, make a phone call, and if they're busy and can't take it, then all right, I'll try again. And it's important to use social media for what it's worth, which can be beneficial to social relationships, but it's also can be detrimental to social relationships. And one of my best friends, Ted, he's off social media, which is fantastic for our relationship because guess what? He's one of
You
the
have to
dudes I
call
talk to. He's one of the dudes I talk to the most out of almost anybody because I have no idea
them.
what's going on in his life. He has no idea what's going on in my life, and it's a treat every time we talk because he's telling me about his wife and kids. I'm telling him about my wife and kids and about work as well, and it really is making us grow even closer as really really tight knit lifelong friends.
I love that. You know what? With that, I just decided as you were winding down that when I get off with this podcast and finish up my work, I'm going to call somebody that I haven't talked to in a while. And I want to challenge everybody that's listening that when this show is over, I want you to think of somebody that you need to talk to, that you miss or that you love, or that maybe just cheers you up every time you hear them, or maybe somebody that you know already needs to hear from you. I want to challenge every single one of you guys that when you're done with this show, please call a friend, foster, nurture a social relationship that you currently have. And with that, I'm just going to bring to attention one more thing. Ron says you guys need to do a screenplay with Sweet Story.
We were
Ron,
talking about that
I'm way
yesterday.
ahead of you, buddy. I've been telling Scott that since like 2019. Like, bro, someday this is gonna be a movie and you're gonna be the main character. It's gonna be about the whole, like, I can just see it now. Like you're out there teaching people how to scuba dive. You come home from work, or you come back from work and you're all in a good mood and you look at Facebook and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta quit my job and try and spend all my money to go try to help. No, thanks, Ron, for that. That's another vote of confidence. Much appreciated. And we got another late arrival. Look at TJ Smiles up in the house.
Smiles.
Smiles, you're just in time to say goodbye. So, with that, like I said, look, guys, we're here every third Thursday of the month moving forward. So please come back. Please like this video. Please, if you're not already a subscriber, subscribe to this show. Share let people know that they can come here every third Thursday and get at least. I promise you at least to have cool guests. I can't promise anything else, but I'll at least have cool guests for you guys. So without further ado, Scooty Wells, bro, I cannot express to you. I can never ever express to you how much I love and appreciate you. I did, bro. I did long before you became Superman when you were just Clark Kent. And I still do now that you're usually just Clark Kent, knowing that you have superhuman capabilities. So, man, thank you for helping Micah and Elmo and Nelly, JFT. Thank you for being the rock that they all needed to give them confidence that they were doing the right thing because they knew that they were supposed to or they were trying. And I've gotten their personal stories from all the angles, but it's a unanimous vote that when you showed up is when like the real power showed up and the confidence that what you guys are trying to accomplish could be done. So with that, man, thank you so much. And actually, I was going to sign off, but I would like for you, if you have a wife in your house, I would like for you to invite her to come say hello because I have another thing that I want to share with everyone. So you guys might not know this, but after I graduated or after I got injured, I after I got injured, I was bedridden for almost a year, and doctors kept on telling me they couldn't help me, much like what happened to me yesterday. And I was not going to just spend the rest of my life in bed. So I decided that I was going to try to learn how to fix myself. So I decided to go back to school. I already have a degree, but I decided I needed another one and probably another one so that I could learn how to fix myself. But when I went back to school, I had no idea that I was going to discover that that was not a practical option. And so I was basically in school for the information of it. And so, which is great because I love school and I learned a lot of great things. But one of the challenges that I wasn't ready for was that I was going to have to learn, or I needed to pass, or I needed to have a foreign language prerequisite in order to pass college. And I know I did not want to spend $3,000 of my tuition dollars on learning another language. So I decided I would just try to teach myself. So I had the lovely Caro try to help me learn Spanish, which was a terrible failure on my part. And then when it started to get crunch time, I was like, well, I don't really want, I wasn't enjoying learning Spanish. That's why I wasn't learning it. And then so this lovely Swedish angel was like, well, you should learn Swedish. She's like, there's a lot of people in Sweden that are fans and that would love to meet you someday. And that's all it took. I was like, there's nothing I would love more than to go to Sweden where 3 of my 4 grandparents were born. Where I was raised by my German grandmother, so I really don't have any Swedish culture exposure. A little bit of it, but I would love to be able to go back to Sweden and be able to speak the language. So thanks to this lovely angel over on this side here, she spent the past 5 months with me, 4 days a week. We missed a day or two here and there, but 5 months, 4 days a week, teaching me Swedish. And if you hadn't done that, I would not have passed my Swedish proficiency exam. So 3 weeks ago, after I got back from Florida, I just went hard on Swedish and went hard with you. And when the test came, I told the guy, I was like, look, I won't swear that I'm fluent in this language. I'm just really just trying to figure it out. I got a Swedish wife. My buddy's wife is Swedish and she's been helping me. And he's like, well, after it was all said and done, he was like, man, you made me think that you didn't know any Swedish. He's like, you have a better vocabulary than just about anybody I ever had this test to. And whoever was teaching you was an excellent teacher. So Louise, thank you for teaching me Swedish. Now
My pleasure.
I'm going to leave it up to both of you to help me get to Sweden sometime in the very near future.
Hell yeah. And before you sign off, Swede, before we sign off, I want to give you huge props because if anybody's listening that don't know, you just finished your 2nd college degree as a quadriplegic, which I don't know, but I imagine people think that being in your state with your disability is just the fact that you can't use your body, but life is the same. It comes with, and you've told me this so much, it comes with you can't get out of bed without someone coming and helping you out. If you have a meeting, class, homework, sometimes you're just stuck where you're at And to be able to go through and withstand all of the trials and tribulations that a college degree takes, not for the first one, but for the second time, and in not in basket weaving, but in nutrition, huge props, bro. Huge props that you're able to go through and succeed with that.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate the recognition. I would like to deflect some of that recognition to this lovely angel, FGM, the
Fairy
fairy
godmother.
godmother. She put in some work to help me get there. And also somebody that is one of those that I was talking about earlier, the ones that doesn't desire the attention and doesn't need the credit. But I got to give a big shout out to my brother, Doug, man. He's got my back and he's here for me at all times, at any given moment. This dude has, I've called him when I've been stuck out in the middle of nowhere and he's driven out there and got me unstuck. I mean, this dude has driven my wheelchair from my house to the hospital because I got taken in an ambulance to the hospital and they couldn't come get my wheelchair. So Doug has driven my wheelchair. Can you imagine not even being disabled and jumping in and having to get in a wheelchair and drive 3 miles down there or 5 miles down the road to bring
5
your
miles.
wheelchair? Yeah. So no question, no doubt that was probably, took some balls. So man, I can't say enough, man. Brother Doug, I hope you're watching. There's never any telling whether he is or not, but the love is there, man. The appreciation is there. And we got a couple late arrivals. Pat, I appreciate that, man. Look forward to the day that we can cross paths. Rumor has it that we will get along like peas and carrots from what swells. I do want to know what the magic stick story is, but maybe that's not appropriate for this one here. And then also, man, Blair, I want to see a live conversation in Swedish at the end of the cast tonight. Yeah, right. And I ain't quite that good. I can read and listen, and I can tell you that I got to go pay, but I'm not going to be hitting any hard. I'm not going to be teaching any hard lessons.
Jag talar inte svenska. That means I don't speak Swedish.
Yeah, the inte means no.
Yeah.
Or you could say "jag talar svenska," which means you do, but you don't.
Yeah, I don't say that. That's what I say whenever I visit Sweden. That's the main sentence I say in Swedish. I don't speak Swedish.
Yeah, well, Swells, since we've made the point today that that social media makes it easy for us to procrastinate talking, let's remedy that, bro. Me and you need to talk more often. And I wouldn't mind one bit if we decided we were going to talk in Swedish.
That means good night or good evening.
Good.
There it says, go Dougster.
Good kväll. Good evening.
Good kval, yeah. Good kval. Is it good or God? I think good kval. Yeah. So hey, I passed. That's all that matters. Now it's get to school and then we'll do some real work. What's that?
Yep. You got that paper.
That's paperwork. All right, y'all. Hey, Ron, thanks for showing up. To everybody, thanks for showing up. Scooty Wells, for you, most of all, thanks for showing up. D-Rex, you were missed.
Always.
Remember, we are all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. Always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah. I love you, dog.
Love you too, man. Much love.
But you gotta believe me, ain't nothing coming easy my way. No, I fucking work, but it's a fucking work.